Testing, testing. Testing, testing. I don't know if I am live or not. All right, it looks like I am. Am I live? I don't know if I'm live. Oh, okay, I am live. Sorry, I needed to scroll down a bit. All right, hi everybody. Hi bears. I'm going to continue on reading the Financial Matrix book again. I'm hoping those of you who have listened to the other streams are getting some value out of it. The book really has a lot of good information in it, and I've read it twice already, and I'm really enjoying going through it again and reading it, because it's just one of those books where you're always picking out new things, or new things are always kind of jumping out at you that didn't really. It just seems like brand new information. All right, so the title of this stream is Price is What You Pay, Value is What You Get. And that's a quote by Warren Buffett. Now, I know a lot of people think Warren is a big graveler, but he is a pretty good investor. And I think the man does have a lot of empathy towards young people starting out in their lives. I've listened to a few of his videos where he's talking to students, and he does seem to have a great deal of what seems to be sincere care in his heart for young people who are starting out and trying to get ahead in life. So chapter 3 in the Financial Matrix book by Orrin Woodward is entitled Warren Buffett's Billionaire Lessons. To achieve financial mastery in life, one of the key decisions people must make is to determine who they are going to listen to. There are two ways to ensure failure. First is to listen to everyone, and the second is to listen to no one. Personally, I was stuck in the financial matrix because everyone I was listening to was also trapped in the matrix. Doesn't it make sense that people cannot mentor others financially beyond the level of results they themselves have accomplished? To be sure, if people knew how to do better financially, shouldn't they take their own advice before offering it to you? I knew, for instance, that my parents loved me. Nonetheless, it wasn't until I realized they could only give me effective financial advice to the level they had personally achieved that I started changing my financial situation. I made a decision to love and respect my parents, but also to stop taking financial advice from them. Instead, I sought mentors who had demonstrated the ability to free themselves from the financial matrix. Another key was realizing I had to stop taking my own advice. I had heard one of my early mentors say, if you are not happy with the results you are producing, perhaps it's time to stop taking your own advice. Ouch. That one hurt, but Lori and I learned our lesson. We started with the end in mind by determining the financial life we wanted and found people who already lived that way. We sought financial wisdom through attending seminars with successful people, and when we couldn't be with them in person, we fed our minds a steady supply of books and audios from the people who had produced or were producing financial results. I believe that if one person could free themselves from the financial matrix, then Lori and I could do so as well by applying the same principles and practices. Warren Buffett's advice that I mentioned earlier was a vital piece of the puzzle to help us change how we thought about money, time, and success. Warren Buffett's 2 keys to financial success. Warren Buffett, in my opinion, is the greatest investment manager of all time. Although he didn't start with much, Buffett implemented disciplined spending habits, so he minimized his expenses, and careful investment strategies. He maximized his investments to compound his assets until he became one of the wealthiest people in the world. When Buffett discussed principles on expenses and investments, I was listening. For example, in a CNBC interview in front of an audience of college students, Warren Buffett gave the following advice. CNBC, what is the one thing that young people should be doing about money? Buffett, I tell them 2 things generally. One is to stay away from credit cards. The second thing I tell them is to invest in themselves. Buffett's short answer contained a ton of wisdom. I separated his advice into two main categories. First, live debt-free. Play defense with your money. And second, invest in yourself. And that's playing offense. Buffett helped me realize that financial success was not just living like a miser, but rather both minimizing expenses and also maximizing investments. In another talk to college students, Buffett emphasized the importance of self-investment. He asked them if they would take $50,000 cash for 10% of their future income. When nearly half the students raised their hands to accept the offer, Buffett pointed out that they must believe they are worth at least $500,000, since 10% of $500,000 is that $50,000 he mentioned. He then drove home the message by asking the students how many other $500,000 assets they currently had. Not shockingly, every hand went down. Buffett then concluded by stressing that your number one asset is yourself, so don't be cheap in investing in yourself. For some reason, I had a hard time with this one before Buffett's reasoning changed me. Sure, if my employer paid for school, I would go, but I didn't understand that I could not rise above my own leadership limitations. If I wanted to grow, then my leadership would have to grow. Buffett made me a believer in financial defense and offense, and it was a game changer for our family. In yet another interview, Buffett talked about his college diplomas and his certificate from attending a Dale Carnegie public speaking seminar. He told the interviewer that he had no idea where his degrees were, but he proudly displayed his Dale Carnegie certificate behind his desk. Interestingly, Buffett emphasized the importance of reading when he held up stacks of reading materials and stated, "Read 500 pages like this every day. That's how knowledge builds up, like compound interest." If the greatest investment manager in the world believes personal education compounds just like traditional investments, then from then on, I would also be compounding my knowledge. In fact, the Life Company was formed to teach Buffett's and other billionaires principles to others. FFP. Sorry. He had initials here, FFP, and that's the Financial Fitness Principles book that he and Chris Brady wrote. So Financial Fitness Principles, one of our most successful products, teaches people how to eliminate debt. Author Jim Rohn perhaps said it best when he noted, formal education will make you a living, formal education will make you a living, self-education will make you a fortune. Once people learn that they are their own greatest asset, they should immerse themselves in financial principles and leadership development and start thinking like billionaires rather than like broke people. And that's really interesting that would be right there, because didn't Owen just say a few moments ago that if you want it, you can already have it because it's in your heart, something like that. That is so true. I just want to kind of take a moment to comment on that because it's so important. One of the things that I've learned, and I read a lot of books. I'm just a book hound. I love reading everything I get my hands on. And and of course, coming from a financial background as well, I've read a lot of investment books. I belong to 2 or 3 different financial investing newsletters. And one of the things that I've noticed, it's kind of a recurring theme with a lot of these financial investment and financial and leadership development kind of books, is the company you keep is really important in whether you go forward and develop professionally, financially, personally, that sort of thing. And when he was talking about investing in yourself, investing in your own knowledge, and that it does compound, it's so true. I mean, a lot of us, there's an awful lot of people, they just go to high school and then they don't enjoy reading. They don't enjoy that whole learning environment. And so they don't really progress much. And I think that's why you see so many people that are in financial difficulties, is because they're not furthering their education, specifically when it comes to finances, because my little talk here is on finances, but personal development is really important as well. Like one of the things that I've always principles that I've kind of lived by is that, or I shouldn't say it's a principle that I live by, but it's something I keep in mind quite often, is that money cannot buy happiness. That's true. But money affects pretty much everything in your life. In this type of a world that we're living in, money affects pretty much everything we do. And so it's not wise to just continually be focusing on the gaining and the acquiring of money. But it's important to educate ourselves so that the money we do acquire, we use it effectively. We use it to build those dreams of ours. Like if you want to do a homestead, then you have to keep educating yourself and learning. You can't just think that you're going to learn what you need to know by the process of osmosis, because it doesn't happen. You have to keep investing in yourself with knowledge, education, and even if that's just listening to videos on YouTube or listening to like a stream like this. Do what you have to do to learn what you need to learn to get where you want to go. Yeah, I should have written that down because I'll never remember that one again. But anyway, investing in yourself is really important. Associating with the people that you need to associate with to learn from them, that's important as well. All right, so I'm going to continue here. He says leadership hard skills versus soft skills. So leadership hard skills versus leadership soft skills. While technical hard skills are typically learned during one's formal education and supplemented with on-the-job training, soft skills are rarely taught in school or at work. Therefore, a potential leader must take responsibility for learning and applying the relational soft skills in his or her daily interaction with others. However, to do this properly, one must first understand the difference between a hard skill and a soft skill. Perhaps the simplest method for differentiating between the two types of skills is to consider hard skills as science and soft skills as art. Whereas science focuses on objective numerical outcomes that can be measured, art focuses on subjective aesthetic outcomes that must be experienced. Hard skills like typing speed, engineering, training, IQ level, or computer programming skills can be measured objectively, while soft skills like teamwork, patience, people skills, public speaking ability, and persistence can only be measured subjectively. While most people would think hard skills are more important than soft skills, scientific research reveals that just the opposite is true. For instance, Google, in a study codenamed Project Oxygen, data mined every performance review, feedback survey, and nomination for top manager awards within the company. The search engine giant identified the 8 most important skills for effective leadership and discovered that technical expertise ranked dead last out of the 8. Historically, Google's management strategy has been simple. Leave the programmers alone and let them reach out to their bosses, who were promoted based upon the mastery of technical skills. However, according to Laszlo Bock, Google's vice president of human operations, Project Oxygen changed their mindset. In the Google context, and maybe just a side note, maybe that is when Google went from not being evil to being evil. Anyway, just a stray thought that entered my mind there. Anyway, Project Oxygen changed their mindset. In the Google context, we'd always believed that to be a manager, particularly on the engineering side, you needed to be as deep or deeper a technical expert than the people who work for you. Mr. Box says, it turns out that that's absolutely the least important thing. It's important but pales in comparison. Much more important is just making that connection and being accessible. Once a person has the basic hard skills, then soft skills become the key differentiator in career advancement and leadership success. Interestingly, Google's findings are not really new, but merely confirm statistically what was previously known intuitively, namely that everything rises and falls in leadership. After all, in 1936, Dale Carnegie wrote, 15% of one's financial success is due to one's technical knowledge, and about 85% is due to skill in human engineering, to personality and the ability to lead people. Oh, that is so true. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to get out of an office environment and into just working with my hands again. When you have managers that micromanage you, it limits your ability and your desire to do a good job. It takes away your autonomy. And even though the micromanagers may be very nice people, they quickly become very annoying managers when they just want you to do everything the way they want you to do it in a technical way. Soft skills, just like what they said there, leaving people to have some autonomy in their work, just being accessible to them if they need your help, that's really important. So true leaders, in essence, combine the science side hard skills and the art side soft skills to build leadership cultures of trust and influence. And every time people invest in themselves, they are building their number one asset. Improved soft skills help people build their most important asset, which improves their earning potential, irrespective of whether they are an employee, self-employed, or a business owner. Buffett taught me the importance of spending less than I make, which is defending your money, and investing the difference in assets, offense, beginning with myself. Since everything rises and falls in leadership, Lori and I realized we needed to grow our leadership abilities in order to grow our business. The only sustainable competitive advantage in today's marketplace is their leadership team's ability to learn faster than the competition. We can see that with Owen as well. There is not a stream. I've been listening to his streams now for a year. It was about a year ago that I discovered Big Bear's streams. And I have seen tremendous growth in his Christian development, in his leadership style, in his knowledge, in his ability to trust in and leave certain tasks to his team, like Coddington and Mountain Bear and those guys, and use that information to have these amazing streams. And there's rarely a stream that there isn't some amount of very valuable knowledge given out to thousands of people. So that really is a good example of investing in himself, so that he can be of value to the people, the bears, the people who listen to him to learn and to grow. So yeah, and his soft skills as well. I can see in just a year how tremendously much he has been mastering those skills. So yeah, you can see with your own eyes, he's a great example of how important those skills are. Expenses versus investments. Perhaps more than anything else, Buffett taught me the difference between an expense and an investment. Financially speaking, the distinction is what separates the wealthy from the poor. An expense is money spent with no expectation of return, whereas an investment is money invested for an expected return. Money poured into proper investments produces additional money, while money poured into expenses is simply wasted. Yeah. I sometimes wonder about that, though. Well, it's not that I wonder about it. People actually think that their homes, like buying a house on a little square plot of land, is an investment because they think, okay, well, it's an investment, it's going to appreciate over time, da da da. However, they don't realize that the interest that they're paying on their home wipes out any appreciation value that they may have. If you get a mortgage for 25 years, and let's say $100,000 home, and at the end of the 25 years, you end up spending, paying out over 200 or close to $200,000. Chances are good in that 25 years, depending on your location, you probably won't sell that house for $200,000. You might, like if you're in a big city like here in Canada, Toronto and Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton and even Halifax, Nova Scotia. Montreal, I don't know about, but 25 years ago, if you bought a house for $100,000, and yes, you would definitely make your money back. However, in most small towns and rural areas, the homes don't appreciate that much, and so your home actually is an expense. It's not really an investment, unless, of course, you're making money from that property. If you can set up a business or, have some sort of income that you can produce using that property, then, of course, yes, that's an investment. But it's not always, and so that's one thing when I read this that don't always just automatically think of your house, your home, as an investment, because unless you do the math and know that it actually is, then it's probably an expense. So, where was I? Okay, wealthy people maximize investments in themselves and in business while minimizing all expenses. In contrast, the poor minimize investments in themselves and business while maximizing expenses. In other words, being poor is not so much an income as it is a mindset and the results of the habits that come from that mindset. One can be poor making $50,000, $100,000, or $200,000 per year. It's not how much a person makes, but rather how much goes to investment versus expenses that determines whether one is poor. An investment is anything that will eventually have a return, while an expense is money poured down the drain. The reason Buffett is the greatest investment manager of all time is because he has utilized a higher percentage of his money in investments to compound consistently over time than any other person. One thing I just heard about, this would be a few months ago now, I think last fall, Warren Buffett had liquidated a lot of his investments to pour into battery companies, making and producing batteries. And so any of you want to do some investing, maybe go check out some batteries companies or invest in solar battery. I don't know what kind of what battery companies he invested in, but anyway, he might know something we all don't know. Anyway, everyone is familiar with the story of David and Goliath. I like to draw on that story from time to time because it makes for such a universal visual. To succeed at the game of life, people must see life as a series of Goliaths placed in their path to test their faith. When one Goliath is defeated, the victory advances a person up the leadership mountain. The more people exercise their faith, even when they are afraid, the more they become Goliath slayers, achievers, rather than a Goliath circler, procrastinators. So, for any of you who don't know the story of David and Goliath, I would really encourage you to go get your Bible out or go online and search for the story of David and Goliath. The story is really a good lesson in life. When he talks about Goliath circlers, okay, so for quite a period of time, there was the armies of the Israeli armies or the Hebrew armies, whatever you wanted to call them at that time. They were fighting a group of people called the Philistines, and this clan of Philistines had some extremely large people in them. They called them giants. And so the soldiers that were in the battle against these people were all scared of these big guys. And there was this really one big mountain of a man called Goliath. And he used to go out and taunt the armies of Israel because they were all afraid. They circled around the camp just like trying to find some sort of tactical advantage, but they just wouldn't attack because they were all scared to death of this Goliath guy. Apparently he was quite an adversary. So anyway, this little guy, David, he was a shepherd, and yeah, so go read the story about David and Goliath. It's really interesting. So the more people exercise their faith, even when they are afraid, the more they become Goliath slayers rather than a Goliath circler. Lori and I were so off track in our investments and expenses that we knew it was the first Goliath assigned to us to slay. Looking back, it's no wonder we struggled financially. In effect, we did the exact opposite of billionaires with respect to money, expenses, and investments. We maximized entertainment expenses using credit cards, car loans, and same as cash impulse buying. And we minimized investments by having no business, no personal development plan, and no tax benefits from having our own business. Either we would change our mindset about money or we would always lack the funds to invest in ourselves and build a business. Fortunately, we followed through on our commitment to change. First, I tapped into my 401k retirement plan to borrow $5,000 for myself in order to start our first business. So that was him going on the offense. Second, we cut every expense that wasn't absolutely necessary to live. Canceled cable television, sold new cars to drive used ones, stopped eating out, etc., and eliminated debt over the next several years. We were done playing small. We had our long-term dreams, get free from the financial matrix and enjoy a better lifestyle without credit of any kind, including home mortgages. And we were committed to one another to play defense like champions. In fact, Lori read the section in Thomas Stanley's book, The Millionaire Next Door, in which he identifies a wife's spending habits as one of the key factors in wealth accumulation. So many times she could practically repeat it from memory. Because she had long-term dreams, Lori successfully practiced short-term denials, and today she is enjoying the benefits of our decade of discipline. Whether you choose to play solely defense, a 20 to 30-year plan to get out of the financial matrix, or defense and offense, generally a 2 to 5 year plan out, the important thing is to start today. The sooner you start, the sooner you can change compound interest from working against you to working for you. The only thing you have to lose is your debt. Now that we have discussed the importance of eliminating debt, in other words, going on the defense, and investing in yourself, going on the offense, it's time to learn about building a business asset. All right, so I'm going to end this one here. And that probably doesn't seem to follow in so much with price is what you pay, value is what you get. But it actually does, because your expenses is the price you pay. The price you pay, it's an expense. So if you're not getting real value for something, it's an expense. If you are getting concrete value for something, that's an investment. And so the main theme of this was to invest in yourself. So invest, and of course he talked a little bit about the different ways that you could do it. But in this chapter, it's mainly making sure that you start investing in yourself, getting yourself educated how important getting yourself educated is. And so that's the first step to on your journey to getting out of debt, getting the background, the foundation built, so that you can launch yourself in. So tomorrow's, I may just shut this one down and do another one up. But tomorrow's is individuals don't win, teams do. And that's a quote by Sam Walton. So building business assets. So tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit. The book is Sam Walton, Building Business Assets. And I don't know if any of you have ever read the story of Sam Walton. He's the guy that started Walmart. When I first got reading this financial matrix and read this section on Sam Walton, I was really encouraged to go and get the book and read it. And it was actually fascinating. It was a really interesting story. No matter what you think of Walmart today, the way it started out with Sam Walton, he was just a small town guy, but he was pretty smart business-wise. But it was incredibly encouraging, especially at the time I had quite a lot of debt and was just getting my hands on everything that I could read to get my mindset to where I could, finally conquer that whole debt monster thing. But the Sam Walton story was really encouraging. So if you've got a library handy to where you're at, I'd encourage you to go to it and get that book. Or go online, and I'm sure Amazon probably has a used copy of it somewhere that you can read. But anyway, that's what we'll go into the next one. So hope you get some value in this. Hope you're taking notes for some of it. All right, that's it for today, folks. You have a great day. Peace out.